I was not very wisely, but married at 20, divorced by 23. And, all of my Christian friends kind of ditched me. And so,
Okay, of course.
yeah, because, it's contagious.
Okay. Okay now. All right now.
and so, I was just feeling so hurt, and I totally ran away from the church, ran to sex, drugs, and rock and roll and anything I could find, that just wasn't that, because the people out there were more real than the people in the church.
And welcome to Woman to Woman. That's Women, the number 2 Woman podcast. I'm your host, Denise Hinkson-Lawrence, and I'm excited that you've decided to join this journey with me. So today I'm excited to introduce to you a guest, a friend of mine. Her name is Reina Rose.
Thank you so much for having me, Denise. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Oh, wait, people are probably looking at us, and those who are listening are like, what are they laughing at?
Right.
This is what happens when we get together.
It is. The first time we got together for like a 15-minute call, I think it went 2 hours or something.
Absolutely. Okay, so Reina, I just want to introduce you to who you are. You are indeed an international best-selling author. Just give us a little bit of overview as to who you are. Who is Reina?
Sure. So my name's Reina Rose, and I am called the Soul Nutritionist, and I have a show TV and Amazon Fire Stick, and I think it's somewhere on a cable network, but I don't deal with that side. It's called Soul Nutrition.
Yes, it is.
And we talk about the various ways to nourish our souls. And our souls, we can just be without joy and without the kind of life we want. And so the show talks about that. The upcoming book that we'll talk about in a bit talks about that. A lot of what I talk about in the book, there's a lot of, and I know you have an upcoming book about this when it will come out, and I can't wait to have that on my show. But when we're hurt and, maybe someone has thought they heard from the Lord, but they really just were having like a harebrained moment, and they tell you something, maybe really negative or hurtful. In the beginning of my book, I say, if you've had these experiences, I'm really sorry. You deserve an apology from someone within the church. And also, if the words that I'm using that, say God or Jesus or heaven aren't your words, please feel free to
language, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And we talked before the show, there was a time when I was not very wisely, but married at 20, divorced by 23. And, all of my Christian friends kind of ditched me. And so,
Okay, of course.
yeah, because, it's contagious.
Okay. Okay now. All right now.
And so, I was just feeling so hurt, and I totally ran away from the church, ran to sex, drugs, and rock and roll and anything I could find, that just wasn't that, because the people out there were more real than the people in the church. And
Come on now. I hear that all the time. We hear that all the time.
Mm-hmm. And so when I started making my way back, because I still craved God. I craved that Jesus and the creator of all the universe. My soul craved it. My soul was so malnourished. And I remember I was crawled up in the bed at my boyfriend that I was living with's house. And I was like, God, I still love you. I hope you still love me.
My God.
And I reached out to God, and I started just slowly checking out churches. Like, I kind of want this. I know I want something to do with this, but not like I had before, because before I was judgy, and so was everybody else around me. And that's not the kind of faith that I want this time. And so I tell you, Denise, I walked out of so many churches, it wasn't even funny. They started saying something, and I just got up and I walked out of the church, because I was just,
how'd you walk, girl?
because, I'm like, someone's going to repeat that. And so I began this journey back to God, and I found this amazing community. But for a while, I couldn't even say the word Jesus. Because
really? What do you mean?
It had just been so cliche overused. Like, what would Jesus do? Jesus loves you. I don't. I'm not going to do anything to follow up on that, but Jesus loves you. So, like, let me give you a pamphlet and walk away.
Yeah.
This is surely not inside of me to love you, but I just want you to know he does. And that's what I felt like. The people who were saying that to me, like, they weren't reaching out, they weren't continuing. And so I just couldn't use it. So I used Christ. I could deal with the word Christ. But Jesus to me was just so cliched. I couldn't I can
Wow.
now. I love Jesus and using that word
Right, right,
now.
right. But it,
But
it was a journey. It was a
it was a
journey.
journey. And I had to use universe instead of God for a little while. It just, that was where I was at. And so even though I use the words Jesus and God and things in my book, I tell the reader in the very beginning, if that's a word that's triggering for you, if that's not what resonates with you, go with where you're at now. This is a journey and we're all coming from different places. And that's one
Yeah.
thing also, like, so I kind of speak to two audiences in this book. I speak to someone who's seeking, it's like, I want God, but I don't want this judgy, fake stuff I've seen
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of places I've gone. Right.
Right.
So it's speaking to that person, but it's also a call up to those of us who are in the judgy places. Right. And I'll
Right.
put
Right.
myself there.
Right.
And so how can we, you know, if we're going to say Jesus loves you, follow up with that. If Jesus is inside of me, I better love you.
You better.
Wherever you are,
Yes.
whatever you've done.
Yes. That
Right.
is,
And there's no condition on, well, I'll love you when you clean up your act.
come on now. I think that's like something that's really holding back a lot of what we would categorize sinners or unsaved people, those who don't have a relationship with God. It's not that they don't want to,
Uh-huh.
but they are making that step. But then sometimes some of us on the inside, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
become that hindrance. We become that person that blocks them because
That's
we
right.
approach them with such a judgy mentality. And we forget that where we're coming from. Like, sweetie, hello, you did not
Right.
come out of the womb sanctified and speaking in tongues. No, baby. No, matter of fact, you were doing the same thing I was doing. I know because we did it together.
And
You
you
get what
know
I'm
what,
saying?
Denise? That is, as much as I wouldn't recommend getting divorced to anyone, it's not a fun experience. I am so glad that that happened in my life and that I ran to like that sex, drugs, and rock and roll, because now everything I ever judged when I was like married and perfect and did all the right things in the church,
Oh, look at
and
you. So
had no
cute.
sin except for judging everybody. And if we look in the scriptures, the
Come on.
only time Christ gets upset with someone's sin is not when it's a sin of weakness. He doesn't get mad at the woman caught in adultery. He doesn't
Yeah.
get angry with these things. He gets angry with the sins of the heart, when we
Heart.
judge other
Come
people, when we make them feel small. This is when Christ gets raving mad, or take advantage of people like the money changers. And
on.
so I thought I was so perfect in doing, I was so moral, because that's what Christianity means, right? Is that we're moral. Not really, right? And I thought I was so perfect. Well, when I got divorced and, just went into this other lifestyle, first of all, I just realized that some of these things I thought were the worst sins in the world, were just sins of weakness. They weren't like, they're not ideal. They still hurt you as a human being.
Yes.
And,
Right.
God cries because it's hurting you, the soul, though. And that's where, like, you cannot judge it, but then you can also be like, and I don't judge that. And if you want your soul to feel better, here's
Yes.
the way out of that. And God always provides a way out of that. And it may not be today, and it may not be next year, but I'm here
Yeah.
whenever you want your way out of that. And
Yeah.
it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. So let's jump right into the book now, because you just
Yeah.
segue right. We could just go right into it now. So I want to introduce this book, and I'm going to allow you to talk more about it. And the title, of course, is called Sin Tastes Good. And you just kind of alluded to that a little bit by saying, hey, when you're in this world, and it's real. It's real. I love the title. And then there's another piece to it.
Soul in an empty
Empty your
calorie
soul
world.
in an empty
Yeah.
calorie world. And so what I want to talk a little bit more about the book and why you came up with the title and just more of the book. And then also, if you don't mind, there's one particular, I know you're in the process of doing your book in an audio format. And there's
Yes.
one that I love, which is about the environment, how important the environment, how it affects you positively or negatively.
Yes.
And so if you don't mind, I'd like you to read just a little bit of that later on for audience. But let's get into the first part of it. Like, sin tastes good. Why would you? Come on. Like, first of all, the normal Christian is going to be like, oh, girl, that's condemnation. I'm not
Right.
reading that. How
Right.
dare her? That is not of God.
Dude, that is not right. Yeah, this isn't the normal book, like heavens, beautiful clouds on the cover, right? This is not that kind of Christian book. And though it talks about Christian topics, it's definitely not only for a Christian audience
Right.
either. And it really does, for those who are Christians, I think it's a great call for us to examine how we're living out our faith. And those who aren't, it's a great way to examine if faith is something that we benefit from.
Right.
And the great thing is the book has no answers.
Mm-mm.
It's all, questions for your own soul, because we are all different. And it's really comparing spiritual things to physical things. So that's, it feels really good until you like get home and you kind of like,
Shouldn't have said that. Yeah.
I seemed like such a catty person in that conversation. I can't believe that I just sat there and gossiped with everybody.
Yeah.
And you feel it after. And I talk about, different stories from different people. It's not just my stories. And I have one in there about a girl, and I don't name the behavior because everyone sins different. And
Yeah.
sin only means missing the mark. And I think rather than add guilt and shame onto the word sin, if we're in an archery field and we shoot the arrow and it veers off course, we don't say like, oh, I'm awful at this. You say, I need a little more practice. I need to aim slightly more left and I'll hit the
Come on
target.
now, girl. Come on now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so why do we do this in our spiritual lives, that we say, oh, you're a horrible person, you didn't hit the mark right away? But no, we need a little more practice. And so as we start to realize, and what I say is, if you have a behavior that is missing the mark for you, or you suspect maybe it's missing the mark for you, think about how it feels after. In the moment, it probably feels great because sin tastes good. It does,
Does.
right?
It really does.
Yeah,
Really.
there's a reason we go toward it, because
Yes.
it feels good, it tastes good, whatever it is in that moment.
Oh, yes.
And
Yes.
how many of us walk around spiritually hobbled
Mm.
because we don't go to the ultimate soul trainer, right? And have him straighten us out, pull our foot in, and help us to run. And instead, we walk around hobbled and we're living a really hard life because we don't go get that training and make the investment in, learning wisdom, learning,
Yeah.
the ways to literally walk upright in our spirit. And what can that be? And so that's my environment. It's actually closer people to me that I can tend to hold to an impossibly high standard. And that's
Right.
my sin,
Right.
where I miss the mark.
Right. Because that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's about missing the mark.
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness, I can't wait. All you people, you have to get this book. It's going to be released in November, right around Thanksgiving. Give us some more information about the release date.
Yeah, so definitely go on to my Instagram is the Soul Nutritionist with the little underscores in between the words, and I'll have a lot about the release date and things. Right now, it's supposed to come out on Thanksgiving. It's looking like it's on track, and it may come out for free, at least the PDF copy, a couple of days before the end of the year. So you want to, stay tuned and see which days it's coming out for free. And then, of course, it's in time for it's a really great Christmas gift, and really. In this world where we have such trouble with connection, having this book and reading it through with a friend, whether they agree with you or not, it's a really good conversation starter to, hey, let's have a vulnerable conversation about where we're at in our faith. Maybe
Yeah.
it's similar, maybe it's totally opposite. But let's have a conversation without judgment. So yeah, you can find me on The Soul Nutritionist on Instagram. My website is my name. It's www.reina, Reina Rose, ROSE.com. You can see some of my show episodes on there and things as well. And yeah, just really reach out to me. Instagram is probably one of the better places. And I just love to hear from you. I love seeing all the comments on the daily readings. So if you'd like to hear more readings like that to get a taste of the book before you see if sin tastes good, tastes any good, come on and watch some of the little clips. They're kind of fun. I get to share.
Oh my goodness. I love it. Again, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a joy. I love our conversation.
Forward for our interview on the other flip side, right?
Yes, me too.
Ladies, thank you so much for listening to Women to Women. Again, we're here to provide to you content that is relatable and practical. And we thank you for your support. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time, I'm your host, Denise Hinkson Lawrence. Bye now. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.